Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going to get into some really fascinating stuff about relationship patterns.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It is, it is. You know, those tendencies we have, those tendencies that just seem to keep popping up in our love lives, right?
Right.
Yeah. And to really unpack this, we've got two really insightful sources to pull from. I forgive myself for my relationship mistakes and the role of past relationships.
Interesting titles.
They are. And, what we're going to find is how much our past
Oh, I
experiences,
bet. Especially childhood.
especially those childhood experiences, they really affect our adult relationships. It's all about kind of shining a light on those subconscious choices.
So we can finally break free.
Exactly. So we can create those healthier, happier relationships that, let's be honest, we all want.
We all want them, that's for sure. You know what I think is so interesting? It's like we don't even realize it half the time.
What's that?
We're actually kind of looking for familiarity,
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
even when it's not good for us. Like our subconscious minds,
Oh, wow.
they're searching for what feels safe, predictable, even if it's not actually what we need.
It's that comfort zone.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
that ties in really well with what I forgive myself for my relationship mistakes talks about.
Oh, how so?
Well, self-forgiveness, instead of beating ourselves up for past mistakes.
Oh, we've all been there.
We all have. But what if we looked at them as learning experiences?
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what this source is all about.
And every relationship, even the ones that, well, maybe didn't work out so well,
Right.
those offer valuable insights,
Right.
like clues about what we really want in a partner, what we need to really thrive in a relationship. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This source even says that those errors can help us clarify our current values and what we want in a partner. It's like our past is actually like a roadmap.
A roadmap, I like that.
Yeah, guiding us to a better future.
To a brighter future, yeah. I love that idea. It's not about dwelling on the negative. It's about, recognizing that every experience, even those tough ones, has a lesson.
Has a lesson, yeah. Okay, so let's switch gears for a second. Let's bring in our second source, the role of past relationships, which really dives deep into how much our family dynamics and even, romantic history.
Our romantic past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it all plays a role in our relationship patterns. Isn't that crazy to think about? Like how those early relationships can really shape who we're attracted to later in life.
It's wild, isn't it? It's like our childhood experiences create this template in our minds. And this source calls it
I love this.
childhood reverberations.
Wow.
That's how they describe it. And it's basically how those early dynamics can show up in our adult relationships.
Okay, I have to know more about this childhood reverberations thing.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah, how does this subconscious patterning work? What's going on there?
Okay, so imagine a child growing up in a home where communication is difficult, right?
Yeah.
Emotions are bottled up. That child, they learn that expressing their needs directly,
It's not safe.
it's not safe. And guess what? As adults, they might be drawn to partners who, you guessed it, mirror that same dynamic.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're drawn to what they know.
Even if it's not healthy.
Exactly. Even if it leads to conflict and unhappiness, it's that familiarity.
That is a powerful example. So basically, these early experiences, they shape our expectations and relationships.
They really do.
Wow. Okay, so the role of past relationships goes even further, right? It talks about the differences between healthy and unhealthy families. And it's amazing how these patterns show up in our romantic relationships.
It really is. And healthy families, they have things like mutual support, open communication,
Oh, yeah, the good stuff.
the good stuff.
Yeah.
But when those things are missing, it can really affect a child's development and their future relationships. What do you think?
Well, I think if a child grows up without those core things,
Yeah,
they might feel insecure, they might not trust others easily.
that makes sense. And it makes it hard to set boundaries, ask for what they need, and all of that, it just spills over into adult relationships. You see codependency, communication issues, trouble with secure attachments. It's not about blaming families. It's about understanding how those early experiences shape us, shape our relationship.
Right, it's about recognizing those patterns. And this source also says we can be influenced by relationships that we haven't really processed or let go of.
Oh, baggage, we all have it.
We do. What are some signs that someone might be, still carrying that baggage?
Well, they might compare their current partner to their ex a lot, or maybe they have a really hard time trusting or opening up fully.
Avoiding vulnerability.
Yeah, or even, subconsciously sabotaging their relationships because they're so afraid of getting hurt again.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
It can be, yeah. So I think the key is to understand how these past experiences are shaping our choices today.
And it's not about blame, it's about awareness. It's about awareness so we can move forward in a healthier way. And the role of past relationships, they have some really thought-provoking questions, don't they?
Oh, they do. They want us to think about who this new person reminds us of. Have we been in a similar situation before? And if so, do we really want to repeat that?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but it's so important.
Because if we're drawn to what's familiar, even when it's not healthy,
That's where we get into trouble.
that's where the familiarity trap comes in, right?
Yes. The familiarity trap, it's this tendency to go for what's comfortable, what we know, even if it's not good for us. Our brains love the familiar, it feels safe, but it can lead us right back into unhealthy relationships that mirror our past.
So it's like our subconscious is going, hey, I know this. It might be messy, but at least it's predictable.
Exactly. But it keeps us stuck,
Stuck in that cycle.
repeating the same mistakes. That's why awareness is so important.
Awareness is key.
We need to shine a light on those subconscious patterns so we can make conscious choices.
Choices that will lead us to those healthy, fulfilling relationships.
That's what it's all about.
It's the goal.
And that's where understanding those relationship patterns from the role of past relationships can be so helpful.
Oh, yeah, those patterns. They really give us some insight into the types of partners we're drawn to, even subconsciously.
Right. It's like having a cheat sheet for our love lives.
I love that, a cheat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And this source outlines 4 specific patterns, and they are fascinating. The first one is the injured one.
Oh, the classic rescuer.
Yeah, the rescuer.
Right.
This tendency to be drawn to people who need rescuing, it often comes from a caregiver role in childhood.
Makes sense, right? Like the knight in shining armor or the damsel in distress.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, it's great to want to care for your partner,
Of course.
but this injured one pattern, it can be a problem if it comes from a need to fix or save someone.
Ah, I see what you mean.
It can throw the whole relationship off balance.
Yeah, and prevent both partners from really being themselves.
Exactly. So it's not about avoiding partners who might need support. It's about checking our own motivations. Why are we drawn to this person?
Right. Are we trying to recreate something from our past?
That's the question. And this source actually asks, was there someone in your childhood that you took care of?
Ooh, good question.
Are you continuing that role? So we're holding up a mirror to ourselves.
And sometimes what we see can be a bit surprising.
Oh, yeah. Now, the next pattern is the child. And it's important to remember there's a difference between being childlike, which can be fun in a relationship.
Playful, spontaneous,
Exactly. And being childish,
which is a whole other thing.
which means immature, avoiding responsibility.
Yeah, like a Peter Pan syndrome almost.
Kind of, yeah. So someone stuck in the child pattern, they might not want to deal with adult stuff, or they always need to get their way. It can cause a lot of tension.
A lot of friction, for sure.
This source points out some red flags for this pattern. Like, imagine a partner who just can't handle serious conversations, or never seems to learn from their mistakes, or expects you to keep the relationship going all by yourself. Or maybe they're overindulging in something, to the point where it's affecting their responsibilities.
Oh, that's tough. So being in a balanced, healthy relationship with someone like that would take a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of patience and understanding.
Making sure your own needs are met, too.
Definitely. Okay, the third pattern, the abuser. This is a tough one, but important to talk about. This source says that people who've experienced abuse, especially as kids, are sadly more likely to either become abusers themselves or be attracted to abusive partners.
It's a heartbreaking cycle.
It really is. But it is possible to break free.
With the right support.
With the right support, absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that everyone deserves to be treated with respect,
Absolutely.
no matter what their past looks like. Recognizing the signs of abuse, both physical and emotional, that's crucial.
Especially emotional abuse, which can be so hard to see sometimes.
It's sneaky, right? It's all about manipulation and control.
So it's about recognizing those red flags. Constant put-downs, isolating you from loved ones, gaslighting.
Gaslighting, yeah, making you question your own sanity.
Exactly. If you're in this situation, remember, you're not alone. There is help out there.
Reach out to someone you trust, a friend, family, a therapist, a hotline.
You deserve to be treated with love and respect.
Always. Now, the last pattern is the addict. And this source says addiction can take many forms.
Not just substances.
Right. Alcohol, drugs, those are the obvious ones.
But it can be gambling, shopping, even work.
Anything can become an addiction when it takes over your life.
It becomes compulsive.
Exactly. And just like with the abuse pattern, if you grew up around addiction, you might be more likely to develop one yourself or be attracted to partners with addictions.
It's that familiar pattern
It
again.
is. So it's about recognizing those tendencies in ourselves, protecting ourselves, and building healthier relationships.
Taking control.
Exactly. Now, I know all of this can feel a little overwhelming, especially if you see yourself in some of these patterns.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But the good news is, both these sources say awareness is the first step.
Awareness is key.
It's about acknowledging those patterns without judging ourselves and then taking steps to change.
And that's where self-forgiveness comes in.
Exactly. I forgive myself for my relationship mistakes reminds us that mistakes are part of learning,
We all make them
and we need to let go of that shame, that guilt.
because it just keeps us stuck.
It does. This source reminds us that healing takes time. It's a journey.
And it's okay to ask for help along the way.
Absolutely. We don't have to do this alone. And as we forgive ourselves, let go of the past, we can start to grow and change.
So recognizing these patterns is just the beginning.
It is. What can we actually do to break free?
Yeah, what are some practical steps?
Well, I think self-reflection is huge.
Looking in.
Both these sources say we need to look at our past relationships, even going back to adolescence, and see if we can spot any patterns.
Become a detective of our own love lives.
I love that. Ask yourself, what types of partners have you been drawn to? What were they like? How did those relationships go? Were there any common threads?
Looking for those red flags.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we can start to understand the beliefs and needs that are driving those patterns.
Get to the root of it.
The Role of Past Relationships has a great exercise for this.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
They say make a list of the qualities of your parents or whoever raised you.
Okay.
Then compare that to the qualities of your past partners.
Past and present, maybe.
Yeah, past and present. And see if you can spot any overlaps. What qualities did you like? What did you dislike?
It's like you're laying it all out there, making it visual.
Exactly. And when you see those tendencies right in front of you, it can be really powerful.
It's like we're taking control of our love lives.
Yes. We're not just reacting anymore. We're consciously creating the relationships we want.
Love that. And I think that brings us to another big piece of this puzzle, understanding our values. You know, the Role of Past Relationships had this amazing line, know what's important to you in a relationship, know how valuable and wonderful you are.
It's so true, right? Self-awareness and self-worth, they go together.
They really do. When we value ourselves, we set those healthy boundaries.
We attract partners who treat us right.
Exactly. Like those old patterns just lose their power when we realize we deserve better.
It's not just about the past. It's about what we deserve in the future in our relationships.
And both of these sources, they're all about being proactive,
Not just sitting back and letting things happen.
creating the kind of relationships we want.
It's a shift from reacting to creating.
I love that. So what would you say to someone who's feeling kind of stuck, like they can't break free from those patterns?
Well, first of all, change is always possible.
It
It
is.
just takes time
And patience?
and self-compassion.
Yeah.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
Never.
A therapist, a counselor, they can really help you gain those insights and develop strategies.
And celebrate those small wins along the way.
Yes. Each time you catch yourself reacting in an old way and you choose something different, you're rewiring your brain
You're creating new pathways.
for healthier connections. It's those little shifts that make all the difference.
It's like we're creating a whole new blueprint for love.
That's exactly it. We're not stuck with the past. We can create a future with amazing, loving relationships.
That is so empowering. Well, I think this deep dive into relationship patterns has been so insightful.
It really has.
What's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
I hope they remember this. Even though our past experiences can influence our relationships, they don't define us.
We have the power to change.
We can become aware of those patterns, challenge them, and create those loving, healthy connections we deserve.
What a great message. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
It's all about understanding yourself, forgiving yourself, and knowing you have the power to create the love life you want.
So here's something to think about. Knowing what you now know about how the past can influence us, what kind of relationship do you deserve?
And how can you start building that future today?
Great questions to ponder. Keep exploring, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of love. We'll see you next time on the Deep Dive on Why